This is Baz from the Energy Express, and welcome to this very special YouTube show, Ask Peter. I'm with the energy legend, Peter Wilson, from his home in Australia. The fans have been in touch in their droves, Peter, and have burning questions to ask. So shall we dive straight in? I've got them.
Before we do it, you're so well prepared. You're such a professional. And you know what? I was telling you before we started recording, I was gonna film this myself, but I thought I want to have someone with me, and you're the only person I thought of. So thank you for agreeing to do it.
You are more than welcome. I really appreciate you asking. It's really kind.
Because it's going to be fun. We always have fun. And I also want to thank every single person that sent through questions. There's a lot in there. So, thank you for doing that. There's a couple of questions that are the same. But, we can cover everything. And, I'm looking forward to it.
Bob. So what I'll do is I'm just going to plow straight in. Anything that's kind of a duplicate, we can kind of go, that's already been answered. We don't go down that route. Here we go.
Cool.
So we're going to start with Steve Langas. Now, apologies, viewers, if I get any of your names wrong, because some of them are...
Me too.
Yeah.
Pronunciation, we may not get it right, yeah.
Yeah, but it's said with love. Don't send
hate.
It is. Do not send hate. There's enough of that.
Never.
Thank you very much.
Never.
So Steve Langas writes, 10 albums, that's an awesome achievement. His first question is, what is your favorite lyric you've written?
I remember this question. I remember seeing that. Steve, thank you for that. And Steve's somebody that's been along following me and supporting me for many years. So thank you, Steve. My favorite lyric is actually not one that I've written for myself. It was one that I wrote for Amanda Lear, and that song was I Don't Like Disco. Amanda Lear herself is very much vocal about not loving disco music, and she's more about rock and roll. And after we had written the first few tracks and they were released, we had a phone conversation, which I will never forget to this day. And she says, darling, help me. I want rock and roll. I don't like disco music, something to that effect. And so I thought, okay, so I'm going to play on her previous lyrics where there was double meanings in there. It could have meant a number of things. So I wrote a dance song called I Don't Like Disco, but if you listen to the lyrics, it's about, she's describing two different types of men in different musical styles. So she's got a disco kind of man, but she wants a rock and roll kind of man. So that's what that's about. Lots of fans would say, oh, but disco is her career. What do you mean she hates disco? But it's a play on words and double meaning. So to answer your question, that is my favorite lyric that I've ever written. I don't like disco.
Babs, he's got two more. What song surprised you most with its success or failure?
Some of them don't do as well as the others. Like, I guess towards the end of the album and the singles there's been a few singles from the album. They don't sell as well as the others. So I guess that doesn't surprise me, but I don't really follow. I used to post charts everywhere and go, oh my God, I'm here, I'm there, but I don't know. I just don't follow it anymore. I think the one that I was excited most about, I guess when Amanda's I Don't Like Disco, that I wrote for her, when that was a chart success in Europe, and when Sabrina and Samantha Fox's Call Me With It, we produced a version on that, went to number 4 in Italy. That was a big surprise, and I enjoyed that. But I think the one that I'm most proud of being as successful as it was Verona with Sean. We both recorded that song. We loved it so much. And the fact that it was successful, it did surprise us a bit, because we don't know who's going to enjoy it, but they did. And I guess that was the most fulfilling. So Verona.
Which is a tune. There's lots of...
I love it.
We will be mentioning Sean Smith very soon, because there's a lot of questions regarding Sean. His final question is there an artist or producer you've yet to work with that you would like to in the future?
Hi, Mike Stock. How are you doing? Mike Stock. Mike Stock's been very kind and very generous to me over the years. We've been in touch a few times. We've spoken about, music, and he's allowed me to record some of his unreleased tracks, and that's been great. I would love to do a track directly with him. Just one or two. I would settle for one. I'd love that. I think that I could have a fully fulfilled musical career if I was to do the one track with him. It may I may be going to his studio in July in London. Where no, it's not in London, but somewhere out in the UK it is. But that so you never know what might happen. So, but yeah, I'm finally going to meet him by the sound of it. So we'll see.
Come on, let's make that happen. Come on, Mike Stock, if you're listening.
No, it's never happened. So any conversations we've had have been haven't been face to face.
What will you be like when you meet him, do you think?
Well, when I met Pete Waterman years and years ago, I was at PWL, and I didn't think he was going to be there. He was doing his radio show, and I was in another room with a friend of mine that worked there at the time. And a few minutes after we knew he was on the show, I heard this voice in the other room. I went, "Who's that?" And my friend looked at me with a grin. He said, "That's Pete. Just calm down." So when Pete walked into the room, he was. I've worked with enough people over the years to, I guess, not have that girly fan moment where I'm just a mess. So I walked up, I shook his hand, and we spoke for a very long time. And he'd known that I worked with the Mandolier, which was really impressive. And he was really friendly, and we got along well. And then I was there the next year, and he was so friendly and so great. This was when the Hyde Park gig was cancelled, the Hit Factory gig. I'd flown over for it, and then it didn't happen. And I was invited there to lunch the following day, and all he was worried about was if I was okay. So, but yeah, I was fine meeting Pete, and that he's a huge idol, so I'll be fine meeting Mike. So hoping it still goes to plan. But yeah, there'll be a fire inside of me. Mike, there's the studio. Let me just go in. Thanks. Let me just record a song. But I know I'll be a bit of a fangirly moment, but I'll try not to show it.
Keep it cool. Keep it cool, Peter.
Keep it cool.
You'd be dying inside, but keep it cool.
I will.
Well, thank you very much, Steve, for your fabulous question.
Thanks, Steve.
We are going to move on to Frederick. Now, this is what I was talking about pronunciation. Frederick Michaud. Michaud?
Frederick.
We're going to go Fred. Fred, this is your question. So he writes, "I'm so pumped for your new single and album." So he's very excited. His first question is there a song that you released on your previous albums that you would consider to re-record with a new arrangement?
Okay, I don't think I saw that question. Would I re-record? I don't think I'd re-record my vocals, my voice. You'll hear a lot of it on the new album. My voice has come down quite a lot over the last couple of years. I can get to the high notes. It's not as natural as it used to be. So I wouldn't re-record some of those older songs, but what I would, there's one track from my album Utopia, and it's a cover of Anki Bagger's Where Were You Last Night. Matt Pop produced that, and I know fans love that track, and I would love to hear a PWL style extended version. Matt Pop, if you're watching, I'm not suggesting that you do that because I know how busy you are. But yeah, that's one song that I'd like to revisit one day down the track, I think.
Bob, I love that record. And
that's a good one. I love the original.
Yeah, totally. Sammy Paul did a version as well, didn't she?
Well, the funny thing is, she recorded it first for Energize, and then she wasn't sure that suited her as for a single. So Matt had finished it, and I asked, "Well, Sammy, do you mind if I do it? Because I'm about to release Utopia, and it would work for Utopia." And she said, "Sure." She even let me use her backing vocals, and we tweaked pretty much the same production, but we tweaked it a little bit to make it work for me. So it was originally a Sammy track that it became mine, and so I think finally her version's out there somewhere now too. So but mine was the single. Mine wasn't even a single. So yeah, the album tracks.
Yeah, I played Sammy Paul's. Well, I had Sammy Paul on the show a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah, that's where I heard that. I think that's the first time I've heard that version in a long time.
Yeah, it's good. Well, just quickly before I move on to Frederick's other question, something popped into my mind then. So you want about your voice changing. When you come to record vocals now with the high notes, are you more conscious about that because performing it live?
If I sing the songs live that require a higher register, I'll usually go into the studio and bring the track down a few semitones. 24/7 is a track that comes to mind that I did that with I was in Sweden and had to bring it down, unconditional. So I do have to bring them down a little bit. But when I go into the studio to record something new that requires the higher register, I've got to get myself in the headspace to do it, and I've got to relax into it so I don't sound like I'm straining. And there's a track on the album called A Moment Like This, and I'm so proud of how I got there, and I got the sweet spot of the high voice. So, but it takes effort. But yeah, if I sing it live, it comes right down because there's no way I can get it. I'm going to sound like Damon Edridge.
And is a moment like this on the new album?
Yeah, A Moment Like This is it's a collaboration with a Canadian Euro disco singer called Synth Go, and it kind of we paid tribute to Modern Talking, and that's going to be on the album.
Oh, exclusive!
Mm-hmm.
We love it. Right, let's get to Fred's second question because he's got 4. Question 2: who would you love to record a duet with?
I'm going to say the same name that I've said a million times already, Amanda Lear, and that's the one, I think. We do have an unreleased duet in the vault. It won't be released. It was we produced some tracks for an EP back in 2009, and on that was a version of I Am What I Am, and we did that in the Pet Shop Boys style. But the first versions that we did for the label, they weren't too sure about them, and her manager said, "Well, why don't you try singing a duet with her on that song?" So I did it, and I've got it on my computer, and I still listen as a big fan because she's one of my favorites. But it didn't work. It didn't sound like it didn't work. And they said, no, we don't like it either. It doesn't work. And so the version that they went with was the final mix we did for that as a solo. So yeah, but to do a duet, that would be her, Amanda Lear.
But that's nice to have. That's nice to have in the vault, so you can always go back.
Oh, it is. It is. She would, the phone conversation that we had after I'd produced all that stuff, she was so kind and so friendly, and she's got a filthy mouth and she's just so dry with her humor. She's one of my top 3 female singers. I just love her.
Fabulous. Right, question 3. I am curious. Frederick's very curious. Is there a disco song that you would like to record? This is from Curious Fred.
Curious Fred. I don't think so. I mean, I'll pick on each album. I'll pick a cover version, and it's usually not the most obvious one. 101 is an exception because that was a duet with Sean. But it will be something that's less obvious. On this next album, there are 2 covers that are they're from Italy and from Germany, and they won't be obvious. And I guess hardcore Euro disco Italo fans might know them. But disco songs, no. I think the one that I always wanted to record was Satellites, which Pete Hammond produced. And we recorded that in a couple of hours when I was in London a few years ago. And that was the one. And I remember he was really pushing me to, there was one part in the song that I couldn't nail the melody, but he pushed me until I got it. So that was my memory of that. But yeah, Satellites, and it turned out well. I love that track. So Satellites, it's been done.
Yeah. And do you think now, because all the big disco records have been done, I Will Survive, Mighty Real, This Is It, do you think they've all been done to death?
I think so, and I think that I'm more Italo Euro disco than those classic disco songs anyway. I think it'd be too far away from what I'm doing to do a classic disco cover. I don't think it's quite me. I know Nicki's done a fabulous version of Last Dance. I've heard that. I think it'd be perfect for someone like Nicki or even Sammy. That would work for them, but I'm not sure that would work for me unless it was, I don't know, Relight My Fire, but Take That have done that. So yeah, it's just I don't think it suits me.
Yeah. Right then, one last track from Fred, Curious Fred. Any plans to re-release collector edition of your earlier work? Thanks for reading my questions.
No, I think that people now have Spotify and they can build their own playlists and so forth. There's not much unreleased stuff, not many unreleased. I don't think there's any unreleased mix. Oh, there's a couple that will put out. Some will be on the next album as bonus tracks. They're all from Electricity. And there's a couple of other mixes we'll use at some point, but no plans to do that. I like to look forward. I think, people can build their own deluxe editions.
Yeah, I agree. It's different now because of the internet.
Pardon?
It's different now because of the
Yeah,
internet.
yeah,
Everyone can source their own kind of playlist now. It doesn't
yeah,
don't need to wait for that ultimate
yeah,
section anymore.
yeah. True.
Make your own. Right, we're going to move on to Christian. This is either Christian Huber or Huber.
I think Christian might be from Germany. I'm not sure, but I remember the name. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Christian. Do you think it's Huber? Huber? He is the
I
founder.
don't want to say it because I don't want to get it wrong.
He's the founder of Huber Taxis.
You see, if I don't know, I don't say. I'm not that rude. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We're going to call him Chris. Chris Huber Taxis. I'm looking forward to your new album. Sounds really good. Do you plan to do a European tour one day when it is possible again? Well, obviously the restrictions have lifted now, but
I would love to. I would really love to. The problem is distance. I live in Melbourne, in Australia, and I've got some commitments that keep me here. So when I come to Europe, and I'm coming to the UK in July, all going well, I'm only able to be there for a certain period of time. So I think a tour of Europe or wherever would need a longer period to focus on it and make sure that it's good. I would love to. If the opportunity presents and the time is right and things work out, I would love to. I had a ball in Sweden in 2019, one of the best times of my entire life. So I would be open to it, but it's just got to work out logistically and money-wise and all that kind of stuff. So I would love to. Fingers crossed.
it's there if you can make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you plan to do just a few little droplets of dates? So like a little one here, a little one there, not like a full tour, just a few little splatterings of performance.
Yeah, I believe Energize are putting something together for the time that I'm there. I think it might be an Energize event. I'm not sure, but that's what they're talking about. And at the very least, I know some fans weren't able to meet me in 2020 when I was supposed to come. So I think there might be a meet and greet thing happening as well. So, but I'm not there until mid-July. So that'll be talked about soon. So, but there will be something. Yeah.
Stay tuned. Viewers, stay tuned. Darren Corden, he's got a couple of questions. So let's get stuck into his first one. How did you find out you could sing? Did someone overhear you or did you ask someone to listen to you?
Oh, okay, Darren. I've known this. Darren's been another big supporter, has been there for years and years and years. I've signed many a CD for him when I've been in the UK. He's been a great supporter, continues to be. So yeah, I guess I found out that I could sing in tune when I was quite young, in my, I guess, early teens. And then I kind of felt confident enough to sing to my cousin and my auntie and say, "What do you think?" And they said, "It's really good. If you're serious, you should maybe do some stage school and singing school and, go down that path." So that's what I did. And and that led to some competitions and shows and stuff. So yeah, I certainly, that gave me the confidence to, I guess, take the next steps.
Fab. What was your favorite TV show as a youngster? And what's your favorite now? Do you like to binge anything?
Oh, okay. So back in the day, I mentioned Neighbours before. So Neighbours, I used to love. It was one of my favorites. It would be the Golden Girls, which I've actually just bought the box set. It was on sale a few days ago. So I bought that. It's not streaming anywhere here. So I bought that. Prisoner Cell Block H, without fail. That was just incredible. And I live close to where it was filmed. So whenever I'm having a bit of a crappy mood, I'll drive down the street where the Wentworth Detention Centre is, and it just makes me feel good. So yeah, Prisoner. I also, and as I went into my, I guess, late teens, 18, 19, AbFab had started. So AbFab was a favourite. And I guess now, those shows are all still favourites. I don't watch Neighbours anymore, although I do hope that it's saved, because I know that it may be finishing, but I hope it's saved. But Prisoner Cell Block H, still watch. I like Wentworth. But then there'd be Schitt's Creek. That's such a good show. Kim's Convenience. And yeah, and I am a big RuPaul's Drag Race fan. And I shouldn't say this, but given the content that is on that's said on the show, I watch it with my 8-year-old niece because she loves the drag queens, and my 5-year-old nephew. They just block their ears when the swearing happens, and I don't explain anything about, you know, what certain things mean. I just, it doesn't matter. But yeah, they're my shows.
It looks pretty for them. Well, you've just described pretty much every show that I love. Schitt's Creek.
Oh yeah.
I was obsessed with Prisoner. Did you ever, when you used to go up to Wentworth or where it was filmed, did you ever bump into any of the cast?
Because I filmed some stuff at Channel 10 when I was younger. I sang on Channel 10 in the same studios that Prisoner was filmed. So I don't think I met any of the cast then. No, I don't remember. I don't think I did, because if I did, I'd remember it, I think. But I met, actually, speaking of that, I met Lou Kelly, the Louise Siverson. I met her at the airport in 2019 as we were going through, you know, when you go into international departures. She was going to London to do an appearance for Prisoner, and I was going to Sweden to do my gig. And she handed me my bag. She said, "Oh, that's for you." That she grabbed my bag and gave it to me. Like, "You're Louise Siverson. You're the best bitch on television." And she was so friendly and so kind. And actually, Darren, that's asking these questions, he was going to be at the show that she was at, and yeah, she mentioned me to him. That was cool.
Wow! Actually,
great.
I met the freak, Maggie Kirkpatrick.
And what was that like for you?
Oh my God, I was beside myself. I was about 16. She was in the UK doing Prisoner Cell Blockade, the musical.
Yeah.
Which was a Camp Old Ryan with Lily Savage, Paul O'Grady. And we met the cast after. So I met Paul O'Grady, and there was other English performers in it. But the freak, Maggie Kirkpatrick, oh my God, me and my cousin, because we were just Prisoner obsessed. She was just so lovely. And it was like, oh my God. And she was towering above us. And we're like, ah.
I love Maggie. I love her. So I've not met her. I've not met her. I remember once I was waiting for a tram, and there was a tram that wasn't my tram. I was going somewhere else. She was on the tram going somewhere else. She must have been, I don't know, rehearsing for a stage thing in the city. And I looked at her and like that, and she looked at me and she nodded and she waved at me. But that was a very big gasp moment where I was clutching the pearls, shall I say.
God, yeah. Amounts. We were the same. I think she came out and put a leather gloves on and did this kind of like thing, this shtick, like
amazing.
Well, Darren asks, well, he's got one more question, but we're going to answer. He's got two questions, but we're going to answer the last one first, because it is Prisoner or Wentworth.
Oh, Prisoner. I love Wentworth, and Pamela Reid is incredible as Joan Ferguson, as is the actress who plays the new Lou Kelly. They're my two favorites, but it's always going to be Prisoner, always.
Yeah, it's just classic. Lizzie,
nothing beats it. Nothing beats it.
Vinegar tits, can't beat it.
Vinegar tits.
All right, Darren's final.
Speaking of that, actually, I've got to tell you this. So I think it might have been Darren that did this. He went to a Prisoner convention where Vinegar Tits, the original Vera Bennett, and Chrissy, they were there, and he had one of my singles. I think it was Hold You Tight or whatever it was. He gave it to them and made them hold it up, and might have been my album as well. And so there's photographs of them holding my actual album. So that was a great thing. That was great fun.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, Darren's clearly a massive Prisoner fan.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So Darren's final question is, which album gave you the biggest buzz, and what's your favorite matte pop mix on one of your songs? So two questions in there. Darren's just, he's question mad.
I think in terms of buzz, I remember there's two albums that I can speak of. The first one that gave me the biggest buzz was Pulsation, because I was in London, I was in Essex with Gary and Dave. I'd flown over to promote Laserlight, that album. And we had received at that, I think within a day of me arriving, a track from Norway came my way, which was What Goes Around Comes Around. And then there was a ballad, I Still Call Your Name. I loved both of those songs so much that I got the label to do a deal to get those tracks to record. It was so exciting. But then Matt Pop and I we were talking about writing a whole bunch of songs together, which are some of my favorites to this day. And then that conversation was, well, I want to work with Pete Hammond in in a lot more, I guess, a lot more ongoing, because we'd only done one or two here and up until that time, but I wanted more involvement with him. So we did that. So that was such a buzz. But then there was Overdrive as well, because I was going in a direction of, I guess I was a little bored at the time with what style to do, and I didn't want to do just the PWL sound, and I really wanted to explore Italo disco. So that album was very much geared towards that direction. But then Italo Connection came along. Fred Ventura is someone I've listened to as a kid. So that since they agreed, and that was the first time we worked together, it gave me a new lease of life with my music, and that was such a buzz to do. So those two, I think. And in terms of Matt Pop, one of my favorite mixes of his that he's done for me would always be Game of Love. He transformed it to the great synth Euro disco track that was on the Utopia album to something quite different, and I love what he did with that one. So it's Game of Love. That's my choice.
Fabulous. We love Game of Love. We love Matt Pop.
Love Matt.
Now I don't know if this is in the question pile. So thank you, Darren. First of all, thank you so much for those fabulous.
Thanks, Darren.
Maria Colettis. I don't know. I'm surmising you know this person. Who was your favorite?
Yeah, ask it. Okay, I've read this one.
Yeah,
read it.
Who was your favorite, me or Anna Zanis? Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah. So everyone knows these girls are sisters, and they're both friends of mine. So my answer is your brother. No, I love you both equally. And your brother.
I hope that's answered your question, Maria.
No, I love they're girls that live close by. They're friends. I've known them for more than 20 years, and she's just having a bit of fun. So I love you, and I've got to see them soon. So yeah.
Oh, Fabs. We'll give the brother my love.
I will, if I could. Sorry, girls. Please don't play this to your brother.
Say that again.
Please don't play this to your brother, girls, if you're watching this.
You can for me. This is from Kevin Keeler, who has been in touch. I don't know why I'm clearing my throat. It's very long. How, that's the first word, how has the recording process differed from when it first started?
Is that the whole question?
That's his first question. There's a hand.
Cool, okay. How it's differed, I think I've become more confident over the years. When you first go in, you don't really know what you're doing. You're not used to the process. So I've become more confident. I've become more familiar with the process. I've got to know my voice a lot better. And because I've been recording every year almost, pretty much, I understand very quickly how my voice changes and how I have to adapt to and learn to sing differently. So it's more confidence, and I'm a lot quicker. Sometimes I can record 3 songs in one session, and I can be done in 2 hours.
Do you get to the point now where, I know I've spoke to you before many a time, and you are a perfectionist, but do you get, when you were saying about there rattling off the tracks, do you go, this is done, if I continue to kind of pick this thread, it's just going to unravel? Do you go, right, I'm happy with that, rather than keep coming back and going, I need to do this again, I need to do this again? Have you stopped kind of obsessing?
Yeah, I learned, you got to learn to let go. And once you get it and you know it works, then you just got to move on to the next part. However, there are tracks that I've recorded previously, even on the last album. There's a track that I love so much. It's Forever Can Start Tonight. One of my favorite tracks with Pete Hammond. But I sound bored. I sound like there's those emotional afflictions, those accents that I have got in abundance on this album. I don't feel like I delivered that enough, and I kind of feel like I let Pete down on that one. And I hear it and think, oh, Peter, you could have done better. I really could have done better. So I now know what to push for, but once I've got it, I move on to the next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the fans will be listening to that now and going, this is the track that Peter.
Yeah, I sound bored. I really sound like and I'm not, because I love the song so much. I really do. But yeah, I think that I'm pretty hard on myself when I hear things like that.
Yeah. When did you decide to make another longer player release versus the extended player? Does that make sense?
So, Yeah, it does. So The Great Unknown, as it is now an album, it was originally planned as either a deluxe edition of Electricity, which would have had 3 or 4 new songs, with extended versions of tracks from the album that didn't make singles. So we would have repackaged it. So I started that recording with Jeff Vincent in the US, big Stock Aitken Waterman fan, amazing producer that wrote for Paula Carcass and other people in the late 80s, 90s. We got together and started working on some stuff. We got Pete Hammond to co-produce and mix those two tracks. And then I was working with the amazing Swedish producer called Larry Forsberg, and he has written many a song for Melodifestivalen. And there's also an electronic group he's got called Neurotics. And so I asked him to write something with me, and he said yes. And then we were like, let's do another one. Let's do another one. And so we eventually had 6 tracks. And then he threw me a couple of extra tracks that were already written with his team in Sweden. And I thought, well, we've got enough tracks. Why don't I just do 2 more and make it an album? So Italo Connection, who are my long-term producers, came along, and they produced 3 now. And then I delivered what I thought was the album, because it had become an album very obviously, and not the EP or deluxe edition that I had planned. And then I delivered the finished album. Matt Pop hadn't produced anything, I guess because he didn't expect me to do another album so quickly. Although he remixed an upcoming single from the album, though. He messaged me in Jan and said, I miss writing with you, let's do something. And so within a day, he sent me a few backing tracks. I picked one and we wrote that. And then, that's one of the most personal songs I've ever written. So I had to put it on the album. And then I played him a song, which is a cover version of an Italo song from 86, 88 maybe. And I said, oh, let's do this one day. He goes, no, let's just do it now. So I did the vocals, and within literally 10 days, I had the mix back. And the first mix for both tracks, the first mix was the final mix. Both tracks, from the time he said, let's do something, to completion, it was 5 weeks. And I love them so much. And I now had Matt back involved on an album, and I kind of felt like I missed him. So it made the perfect album. So yeah, that's what happened. It just evolved. I couldn't switch my mind off.
Yeah. And it was then just going, listen, let's just make this a new album. Rather than, because last time we spoke, you were going to be doing the deluxe of Electricity, I think. Yeah,
that's not going to happen now. So It's now the brand new album. It's now 14 new songs on disc 1, and then on disc 2, it's an additional 2 new songs. One is a new track I wrote with somebody, and then there was a song that I recorded a couple of years ago, written by the London Boys producer Ralph Rene Moe, and so that track has made it to the deluxe. But then the rest of the tracks are unreleased mixes from Electricity. So that's how that's packaged now.
Oh, keeping the London Boys alive. Love that.
Well, he wrote Careless Nights for me. So I've already worked with him. So this is the second track we've done.
Babs. Does it have a bit of a Requiem, London Nights vibe?
Well, because Careless Nights doesn't really, but this one it's very much an 80s sounding track. And Synthgo, who I did a moment like this with, he's produced that. So it sounds very much in that vein, like the London Boys, Sunita, all those tracks that he did for them. It's unmistakably his song.
Yeah. I love the 12 Commandments of Dance.
Great album.
Yeah, great album. Next question from Kevin with the E. Let's not forget that. Kevin Keeler.
Yep.
How would you rank your albums, favorite to least favorite? How long have we got?
Well, I'll try and do this one quickly. I mean, Pulsation is one I always go back to because I love that buzz of making that album. Overdrive, as I mentioned. There is The Passion and the Flame, because there's Verona on that. Diamond Eyes. Careless Night. So many songs that I love. Whenever You Want Me, another stock song. It's hard to choose. There are so many. In terms of least favorite, I think I'm the least connected to Follow Me, because it's one that there are tracks on there that I think are great but didn't work for me. There's High on it, which is such a great house track. When I received the demo, which is actually the same production that we have on the album, it had a really big female diva voice on there, and I think that's the kind of voice that song deserves. don't think I cut it. I sang that pretty badly. So, but I don't. Maybe it just wasn't right for me. And there's a couple of others that just didn't work. So that album, there are some songs on Laserlight, and I know this is a fan favorite that just didn't work for me. So I think I'm least connected to those two.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I like them and I enjoy I'm working on them, but and I think with Laserlight especially, that was at a time where I was suffering such huge writer's block after writing so many songs for Nikki, for Amanda Lear, for other people, for Sammy, and I just burnt out and I couldn't write anything easily. And there's a track on there, Laserlight, the lead track. Love the song, but I just didn't. I felt like I was going through the motions writing the lyrics. They weren't honest. And at the end of it, I just felt like I wasn't doing a good enough job. And I said it in the end. I went, oh, that'll do. And Matt Pop heard me say that in the take, and he put it in the track. And I said, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And he's, no, I like it. It's authentic and it's cool. And I gave it and let him keep it. But yeah, it's I don't know. I just don't feel connected to the lyric of that song. So I only wrote 3 on that. So I think I felt that way about that song. Yeah.
That'll do. I know you mentioned earlier about not wanting to release a collector's box set edition or whatever. Do you think maybe the latter of you when you're like clutching onto life and you're at the end, would you go, this is my ultimate, so the favorites from the first album, favorites from this, would you want to put together and just kind of go, these are the ones I prefer that were in the bin, these are the ones?
I don't think so. No, I don't. Like, I know that's been suggested before, but my mind is not in there. When I'm creating or releasing something, it's not about that. It's about new material. I mean, when I'm dead and buried, and if someone wants to do that, sure, whatever. But yeah, I don't want to do that. So, but I know Energize might want to release a remix collection at some point, and I would look at that if it's a few remixes and add a few, I guess, record a couple new tracks. That's the only thing I might consider.
So when you're dead.
When I'm dead.
When you're dead is the answer.
When I've turned up my toes.
Do what you want with it. I'm dead. Is there any track looking back through your career that you cringe or question while you recorded it? I think we've answered that. Or do you want to answer that?
Oh, there's one. No. There's one called Bing Bong Turn Me On. I'm not lying. It's the name of the song. I was forced to record that song as part of that single package. The producer loved the idea of doing a really sugary pop song. I came into the studio hearing it, saying, no fucking way, I'm not recording that. And I know that the producer, he's a lovely guy. He took it really personally, and he was upset that I didn't like it. But I just couldn't stand it. And then I think I left the studio not recording, refusing to record it. And I had a call from my manager saying, you've got to go back, you've got to do it. It's just going to be on the B-side or the bonus track. Just do it. He'll dance it up a bit. So I went back and did it. And I think I even sound annoyed in the vocal. Yeah, that one I cringe, but some friends that know that song never live it down, never let me live it down. So that would be the song. And it's no disrespect to the producer, because he produced my first single, and I've worked with him since then, on other tracks. He's incredibly talented. That song, I just can't.
It would have fitted well in Eurovision.
Someone else can sing it, not me.
Bing Bong, Turn Me On.
Awful.
I remember the very first time we ever did an interview, which was going back about 2 or 3 years now. And yeah. I played that on the show, if you remember. You were like,
I don't remember actually, but I believe you.
Did I play that? I thought, was it that one, or was it it might have been the A side? Anyway, I remember talking about Bing Bong Turn Me On to you, and you were like, yeah. Oh, God, that's just the worst. We played it as a giggle. Are there any unreleased tracks you would consider revisiting for future projects?
They're usually unreleased for a reason. They didn't work for me, or we abandoned them for whatever reason. Although Too Late, that's one of the tracks. That's the Ralph Renee track that we didn't release. I think we recorded it for Change of Heart, but so I've used that one. But there's one. There was usually, if it doesn't work for me, then it's not going to be released, and it stays that way. Although You may not know this. The Nikki French track, Stop Before You Get Me Started. You know that
Oh,
track?
yeah, I do.
Well, I recorded that first. So that was written for me with along with Scene of the Crime. And so I recorded both of those for Overdrive. Scene of the Crime I loved, and we put it on the album. Stop Before You Get Me Started, such a great song, but I thought I was going to nail it and kick ass in the vocal, but it sounded terrible. Not because of the song, but because of my delivery. I just couldn't get it right. And I don't think that song suited my voice or me as an artist. So we parked it. And then Gary came, contacted me and said, that track, that demo, are you going to do anything with it? And I said, well, I don't know, I'm not going to, I don't think so. And he said, do you mind if Nikki does it? And I said, yes, please. It's such a great song, and I think it needs a great voice and a great home. So she recorded it with Matt Pop, and it's so great. And if I heard that before I'd even recorded, I'd be like, I want that song. I know that I've done it, and it wasn't right for me. Nikki made it her own, and she killed it with that track, and it's perfect. So, so certain unreleased tracks aren't meant for me, and that's one of them that was perfect for someone else.
Do you have, this is not a question from a fan, but do you have any songs that, just picking up where you just left off from that, do you have any tracks that you wrote? Obviously, you mentioned that Nikki French song, but any other tracks that you wrote, gave to another artist, and then went, I wish that was mine. Like, I wish I'd recorded that for myself.
Sammy Paul, Why. I love Why so much. It's one of the best songs I've ever written. Why, I would love to sing, but I won't, because no one's ever going to beat her vocal on that. So yeah, that'll be the one.
I love that record.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's fab. Supersonic Lover?
Supersonic Lover. Actually, Supersonic Lover. I love that one too. That was written for Gina G. She cancelled the recording session 30 minutes before she was due to arrive. And so she also wanted us to rewrite sections of that song, and I refused. So I said, take it or leave it. And she left it. Sammy got it, and I think did a much better vocal than we could have got with Gina.
I absolutely love it. It's a great record. The Pete Hammond.
Thank you. I love that.
Yeah,
it's good.
Brilliant. And the iconic, I remember messaging you going, what is the robot? Because do you do the BVs for that?
That's my voice.
Yeah,
that's me. Yeah.
You go,
yeah,
it's iconic. Me. Are they both?
That's me.
Are they both iconic? Do they both say iconic, or was it the first one?
I don't remember. It's iconic, supersonic. I don't know. I don't remember.
It doesn't sound like iconic, the first one. The second one does. Your song.
Supersonic. I don't remember. That's terrible. I wrote the damn song. I should remember that.
Yeah. Listen, I asked Sammy Paul a similar question. I went, what you saying in this lyric? And she went, oh God, 10 years ago, I can't remember.
It's true. It's true.
I think her husband, or I was living in the city. I was asking about that. Anyway, right, we'll get back to the questions of the fans. We're still with Kevin with an E, K-E-V-E-N, Keeler. Last one is his last kind of like, it's packaged as one. When you released One-on-One with Sean Smith, you made a music video at the point when you were reluctant to create one. What is the reason for not promoting music videos? Have you concerned filming live performances? Have you concerned? I don't think that's what he's meant to say.
I've read this question. So yeah, I think he's asking, have I considered filming live performances?
Considered.
Yeah. I'll answer that first. It's easy. I think I haven't considered doing that because when I was in Sweden, about a few people in the audience filmed the whole show, and they put that on YouTube anyway. So I know that I don't need to do that. So I haven't considered that. Videos, they bore the fuck out of me. They really do. I remember when I did videos back in the 90s, I enjoyed the process. It was fun. But I've never been a natural performer in front of the video, on camera, and I always felt self-conscious. I look back at it and pick to pieces all the things that I dislike about myself, and it fucks with my head. So I just thought, I'm not comfortable. I'm more focused in the studio, and I never used to like doing live stuff. Now I love it. So I'm happy to do live, and you do live performances because I'm in the moment and you get one shot. You're not rehearsing and it's not contrived. It's just done. But videos, they bore me. They just bore me, and I don't want to wrestle with what I look like afterwards after watching it a million times. So, but I did the one with Sean because it's Sean. We have a special connection, Sean and I, and it was a follow-up to the biggest hit we've had with Energize, and it was special and just felt like doing it to say, I know fans wanted it, so I did one, and won't say never because I didn't think I'd do that, but I would say it's unlikely.
Yeah, just let the music speak for itself.
Yeah.
Right then, thank you, Kevin, for those lovely
Thank you, Kevin.
We appreciate it massively. Well, Peter does, but I do as well. I'm here.
You're here.
I appreciate the question.
I'm just loving that I'm getting to speak to you again because it's been too long.
I know. We were talking about this before we hit record. It was during the 1 and 1. It was during electricity, wasn't it? When we spoke.
Yeah, around then. Yeah.
Yeah. Spy DRMX New Generation. Hello, Spy DRMX New Generation. He writes, or she writes, or they write, "Hi, Peter Wilson. There is a nice song that I love, Satellites. Why did you decide to record this song?"
Oh, we've done that. We've talked about that. Yeah, I love the song. Always loved Ellie Warren's version of that track. So I wanted to do a version with Pete Hammond, and I envisioned him doing it in the style of Laura Branigan's Shattered Glass because it's written by the same writer. So the first track I recorded when I arrived in London was with Pete. I did that track, and I think another one for that album, Take a Chance on Loving You. And so we did that, and I loved it so much, and I love the final version. And Matt Pop did a great version of that, actually, a remix. And then what I'm loving about that is that Ellie Warren actually heard my version, and it got back to me that she really enjoyed it and loved what I did. So that's the ultimate compliment. So yeah.
There you go. Hope that's answered the question. Spy DRMX New Generation. Thanks for getting
Thanks for the question.
Andy Musson, or Mousson. Let's call him Mousson. It sounds a bit better. So apologies if your name is Andy Musson, but Andy Mousson.
Andy's a long-time fan as well. Long-time fan. Been there since the beginning of my time with Energize. Even before, I think.
Oh. Well, Andy writes, "Hi, Peter. If you could duet with any female singer or male, who would they be?"
We've done that one too. Well, Amanda Lear. For males, I've done. Well, Sean was always my ultimate male duet, so I've done that. I'd sing with Ben. I'd sing with Ben Davidson. I'd sing. And there's also, who else is there? T Webb, because we talk. He's on now Energize, and we talked about doing something down the track. So I would imagine something with him in future. Not for my album because that's done and delivered, but yeah, I'd like to do that. His voice is so crazy good, so I've got to get my chops on. I've really got to get that because he's fantastic.
Yeah, I'd tell you about my show. Lovely guy, and again, and he used to do the like Madonna tracks with Energize, Blonde Ambition. So he did all the live to stuff, and you're like, that's a man. Oh my god, incredible,
amazing.
So do you find yourself, again, kind of going off the off-piste, do you find yourself kind of keeping it in the Energized family? So when you go, right, duet or blah, 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 let's work with T-Web, maybe do a collab with Nikki French, maybe, is that how it kind of, do you have ideas bubbling around within the Energized family?
Sometimes, look, often I do because we are all within the same, within the same team. But not always, not necessarily that way. I mean, we outside of Energize, I'll be working with the Italo disco people as well. That are in my, I've got the Energize team, the Italo team. So I've done this track with, I was talking about it before with Synthco that will be, he's allowed us to. It's really a song with him for him that I've sung the lead on the verses and the chorus, which she's allowed us to put on the album. So the collaborations can be outside of Energize quite often.
Yeah, you did Diamond Eyes with Fancy. That was separate. Yeah, which is a tune. Thank you very much, Andy, for getting in touch.
Thank you, Brandy.
Now, here we go. Diego Driato Murgia. I'm going to just maybe stop at that before I kind of destroy your name. But Diego, have you ever thought of a PWL cover album?
No. I know fans love my PWL style tracks, but I think a full album of those tracks would bore me as an artist. I would just, I love hearing full stock Aiken Waterman produced albums. Donna Summer, for example, best thing they've ever done. Kylie's, I won't say Rhythm of Love because I didn't do all of that, but that's, you know what I'm saying. But yeah. I wouldn't find that to be interesting. I like to also do a lot of original material. I like to write a lot of it, and I'm happy to receive songs that are original that I didn't write that were submitted to me. But a cover album in the PWL style, no, it's not going to happen. Sorry. I know he's a PWL fan, and I'd love to give you the answer you want, but yeah, I just couldn't do that.
If you could just choose one PWL track to cover, what would it be?
It's actually on the next album, so I won't say.
I'll find out when we stop recording. I'll let you know.
You will. You will. It's not an obvious one. It is not. It's not obvious.
Diego. Right, we've got. Thank you, Diego. We've got Bill. Oh, here we go. Surname Bill. I'm going to give this a good go. Trieg-Sevsky.
He's from Australia.
Oh, Bill. Apologies about your surname.
Yeah, Bill.
Trieg-Sevsky. Trojevsky? That sounds like it could be a thing. Right then, Bill, here we go. So, hi, Pete. Out of all the big stars you have worked with, who seems to be the most professional in knowing how to deliver a great sound and track for your music? Not Gina G.
Oh. No. So, in terms of, I'll go for singer that I've worked with. Nikki French I saw that. Nikki French is not only is she a kind and lovely person, she is such a perfectionist vocalist that when you get vocals back from Nikki, you know there's going to be a lot to work with, a lot to choose from, but downright fantastic vocals. So Nikki is the absolute consummate professional. So Nikki is incredible. In terms of producers or people that I know will deliver the sound that I want, I mean, I've got my team. There's Pete Hammond, there's Italo Connection, there's Matt Pop, there's Larry Forsberg, there's those people that I continue to work with, you know, Matt, Pete, Italo Connection, all those guys. They're even the new guys that I've got on the album, Jeff and Synthgo and all those people, you know, I'm lucky to have them. So I know that I can always rely on getting that kind of quality. And I'm really lucky to have them. I don't take that for granted.
Yeah, Babs. And Nikki's such a lovely woman, isn't she?
Oh my God, she's great. She's so good.
Bill also wants to know, what song of yours do you absolutely love singing?
Oh, okay. So I guess doing that live. So I love doing Hold You Tight live. What goes around comes around. I love doing, but Hold You Tight's always great. And there's a track from the next album that is the closing track on the album. I can say that it's called Do You Love Me? And it's another one that I've done with Larry Forsberg in Sweden. And if I ever had a Eurovision moment, this would be it. You've heard it. I know you've had an exclusive. It's big. It's very big sounding, and it's I can't wait. When I get to London, I want to do this song. It's one of my favorites already. It will be a fan favorite. So I want to do that.
I can literally vouch for that. It is very, very good. Very good.
Thanks.
Yeah, play it all the time. I do. Right, then thank you, Bill, for that. That was fabulous.
Thank you, Bill.
We've got Daniel Sieber next. Have you ever thought about creating a limited fan box, including bonus disc, postcards, lyric book? We think we've discussed this. It's not really up your back.
Yeah, no. No, I wouldn't do that. No, it's a good idea, but I don't know. I'd rather focus on new stuff and not repackage old.
Yeah, so it's a no, Daniel. How is the method to put the order of songs, or what's the method of putting the order of the songs for the new album? So where do you kind of so we just discussed there about Do You Love Me is the last track, and it's a great closer. It's a great closer because it's a big song. When do you
Usually we put the lead single first. Sometimes I put songs that haven't become singles as the main track, but I remember when I did the Passion and the Flame album, Fancy saw the initial running order and he said, no, because he heard all the tracks. He says, this is how it needs to be. You've got to start with the singles first. And so, yeah, I changed. First time I ever listened to somebody was with Fancy. He told me the importance of that. So I rearranged the track listing to I guess in line with his suggestions, and it worked well from the start. But yeah, I don't know. I think we've got to start with a couple of singles, things that are familiar, but then close with something that's just going to knock people's socks off. So that's what I've done this time. But yeah, I just listen to what feels right. Yeah, I think once you listen to all the tracks, you put them together, you kind of start to know where they go in the album.
Do you study it a lot? Do you have this kind of where you are, oh my God, and you're obsessed
It's
over it?
painstaking. I'll obsess over it, and and Nicholas, who does the art design, he knows very well. I'll send him, this is the final running order. No, this is the final running order, and I'll send 100 emails until the very last minute, and he'll say, "Are you sure?" And he'll roll his eyes and he'll say, "I don't believe you." And it's a tough one. So I stress over it, and I get, but I'm finally there now. So we've got the next album running order done. And that's not going to change.
Fab. Have you ever thought about recording a song in another language? This is still Daniel Sieber.
I think because I only speak English. I understand a lot of German. I understand a lot of Italian and Spanish as well. But I don't think that I'm good enough in terms of pronunciation to get there and to deliver it. I did some Italian in the chorus of Soli nella notte, and that was on the Change of Heart album. I love that song. It's one of my favorites. So that was my attempt. I'm not sure. The producer said, he's an Italian producer. He said that I did well, but that's my attempt, and I think I'll leave it at that for now. But although I can understand German a lot better, and there's a German song. Do you know a Eurovision singer from Germany called Michelle? And she was in Eurovision in the year 2000. And there's a song that she recorded in 2012 called Grosse Liebe, and it's the biggest love, or big love. And I understand every word, and I can sing that song from start to finish. And I would record that, but I just worry that I would mess something up and Germans would laugh. So I'll just sing it in my shower.
Daniel, that's coming soon. You can have heard it here first. So the last question from Daniel Sieber is, what do you think about doing a cover album? I think we've covered that one as well. Yeah.
No. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not going
to. He likes original material.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Daniel. Hope that's
thank you, Daniel.
Satisfied your question needs. Lee Woods Russell, do you love your Overdrive album as much as I do?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I love that album. It was a significant period because I was getting really complacent with the music that I was doing. So to have Italo Connection come on board for the first time and we planned 2 tracks, which then turned into 4. I loved that. Yeah, it was great. I got to work with Matt Pop again. We wrote 4 songs together. Pete Hammond was back, and that album was the first time I was in the studio physically with him. We normally do the vocals here and send them over. So I recorded both tracks there. But yeah, it was a turning point because that edged me towards where I am now musically. So yeah, Overdrive is a great album. I worked with John Von Arlen from Parallax, who he'd done some tracks on Laserlight. And so I got to work with him again more in depth this time, and it was great. We co-wrote together. He produced the track that I wrote on the album. I also covered for the bonus disc. I did a cover of his song Sharper Than a Knife, and we kind of went down I Love My Radio, that style. So yeah, that was a great album. I love that one.
Wow. Have you done a cover of Sharper Than a Knife? Sharper Than a Knife.
Yeah, it's on the bonus disc of bonus disc of Overdrive. It's on there.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Love that record. Thank you very much, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Ross Alexander Graham. Bell. Alexander Graham Bell. Ross Alexander Graham writes, what song would you class as your most theatrical? Does it deserve this?
He's okay. Ross is a friend of mine, and he's also an amazing artist, and he is being very cheeky. When I see him in the UK in July, we're going to have a few laughs. He's very cheeky and most theatrical. Theatre, darling. I wish I could answer the way I want to. It is going to be the unreleased duet with Amanda Lear, I Am What I Am. That's obviously the most theatrical, yeah. But he knows the answer I want to give, but I'm not going to give it.
Shocking viewers, shocking.
I'm not going to do it.
Thank you, Ross. I think you know the answer.
Thank you, Ross. I love you, and you're very funny, but you're very naughty.
Naughty Ross. Gary Westwell, have you ever wanted to record with Kylie?
Oh, no, because look, I'm not a mainstream artist. And people like Kylie, who is I went to high school with her. So she was the first person at school to be nice to me. I was the bully little kid, and she got rid of the bullies in the canteen. I'll never forget that. And she's probably a lot of the reason why I thought, wow, she's making music. I want to do that, you know. But she's huge. She's such a huge artist. And I wouldn't expect she'd know who the hell I am. So I wouldn't, if she knew and said, hey, of course I'm not going to say no, but I would never try to achieve that. No, but yeah, that's my answer.
Oh, so you went to school with Kylie Minogue? Wow.
I did. Danny was 1 year above me. Kylie I was in the beginning of year 7 and she was year 12, the final year of high school. She was the same height as me. So when she was nice to me, and that was at a point where I didn't have really any friends, I was quite quiet. I thought, this girl can be my friend. And then the next day, I saw her on the TV show she was on at the time, the Henderson Kids, and I realized, oh, she's famous. And she's also related to Danny, who was at the time the famous one because she was on Young Talent Time. Yeah. So I thought, okay, they're just untouchable. So yeah, but yeah, we only ever spoke once at school. Then I would get the occasional awkward smile. She was just so sweet and shy. Yeah, but yeah, there you go.
Oh, wow. It's an education, this show. Education. Getting all the facts. Thanks, Gary, for that. From Instagram, MPBH23. This person has no name.
I think this one's from Spain. I think you're from Spain, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it does start with Hola, Peter. So
there you go.
There you go, Espanol. Hola, ¿qué tal? Hola, ¿qué tal? So MPBH23 would like to know, Hola, Peter, I often get inspiration while sleeping as a melody comes into my dream. Then I have to wake up quickly to record it on iPhone Audio WAV before the melody disappears. And you, when is your better time to write songs? Or Go on, sorry.
No, you go.
So I think he's basically asking, when do you find the inspiration? When does it come to you? When is your better time to write songs? Or is he the strangest man writing songs in his dream?
It can happen at any time. And look, he sounds like a true songwriter because only a true songwriter would have that experience. I've done that as well. I've woken up and I've sung something into it. I've written a song in my dreams and I've gotten up and I've recorded it into my phone, and that's fine. That's what I do. It can strike as he would understand. It just hits you at any time. You don't pick it. It just happens. You'll hear a song, or you'll hear a melody, or a lyric, or a hook, and it'll bug you until you get it done in the studio. So anywhere, it's very unpredictable. I remember when I was flying to London, when I did, was it Satellites? No, it was the Passion and the Flame. We arranged for Pete Hammond to do 2 tracks. One was Whenever You Want Me, those the Stock and Waterman track. But the other one was going to be one we'd write together. So I thought, okay, I've got to write a song. And I was on the plane thinking, what am I going to write? So on a plane, I'm around people, so I can't literally go into my phone and start singing So I had to store the chords and the melody in my head and keep it there. And I've got a photographic memory, so I was able to keep it there until I got to London and went back to where I was staying and sang it into my phone as best I could. I wrote the lyrics down, of course, but then sang it and then went into the studio and said, Pete, I've got the song in my head. I've got the chords in my head. He goes, I said to him, get me a bass line, get me a drum, get me chords, and I'll have the backing track for the verse and chorus done in 5 minutes. He goes, no one's ever done it that quickly. You're not going to do that. It'll take a while. I said, believe me, I'll do it. So he got there. He gave me what I needed, and I had it all down in one take. He looked at me like crazy. He couldn't believe it. So I shocked Pete Hammond with that way of writing.
Wow, that's fabulous. MPBP23, thanks for that question. He continues, when are you performing in Spain, Seville, Madrid, Barcelona? Please visit us anytime.
I want to go to Spain, and I've recorded with a producer, Luis Rodriguez. He is in Spain, so I've recorded with him. Not on this album, but on the previous 2 albums. But I've got my friend Hayward, Sid Hayward. She lives in Spain, so I need to see her. So I may even pop over for a weekend, but I don't know about performing. I guess it comes back in line with the European tour question. If the opportunity presents and the time is right, I will do it. I've always wanted to visit Spain, and I know I've got a lot of fans there, so I want to do it.
Fab. It's there as soon as you can get there, NPBH23. Adios. Thank you for your question. Nobile Anderson or Noble Anderson. Hi, Peter. If you could share with us the memories you have about listening to Italo Disco, the PWL sound whilst growing up, and also when you create such wonderful melodies, harmonies, and listen to the final version, do you have goosebumps like I do? I love your music.
And he's very sweet. I remember Nobile. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce, but he's been very kind with the things he said about what my music means to him, and I appreciate that. So the first question is, when I finish, I remember the previous question was about, do I get the goosebumps? I make sure that every final version that appears on my album, it's got to give me those goosebumps, because if I don't get them, I can't expect someone else to get them. So that's what every track's got to give me. There have been tracks on previous albums where I haven't had that feeling, and I really have learned not to put those songs on albums. So yeah, I've got to get that feeling, or I'm just not going to use it. What was the first question again?
First question was if you could share with the memories. If you could share with us the memories you have about listening to Italo Disco and PWL while growing up.
Well, I remember I guess, knowing who Stock Aitken Waterman were when I had bought Divines, You Think You're a Man, and I'm So Beautiful, and Dead or Alive, You Spin Me Round. I don't know how I did this, but at age 11, I knew that it was a very similar sound. So instinctively, I turned over the back of the records and saw that both of them had the Stock Aitken Waterman names. Back then, it used to say a Pete Waterman production directed by Mark Stock Matt Aitken. I remember that. And I saw that was the same. And I realized these guys, anything that these guys do, this is what they're going to sound like. So at age 11, I became aware of them. And then I would look at every new release and try and find their name. And I think I didn't find anything by them until they became Stock Aitken Waterman. And that was when Princess and other stuff came along. My memory of that, like discovering new Stock Aitken Waterman records, was amazing. And then in 84, 85, there was a radio show in Melbourne called the Pulsation Club Show. That was on every Friday night between 10 and 12 on the radio. And then there was a 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. show called Dance Till Dawn, playing all the import Italo disco, European pop, Stock Aitken Waterman. This show ran from 84 to 89, both of them. And you would hear all this new music. So my memory of listening to all that, listening to Ken Leslow, Fred Ventura, Fancy, CC Catch, Paddy Ryan, all these Italo things, and the latest Stock Aitken Waterman record would be by going to Target to buy my cassette tapes every Friday afternoon after school. record what I could on my cassette player and listen to all these things. And then it would be going to Central Station Records, the import store that would have all of these records, and bleeding my dad's wallet dry with, please buy me this, you know, and then saving up pocket money to buy stuff. So my memory of that was in my room, buying the tapes, listening to the tracks, secretly getting on the train, not that my mum knew, but I'd be going into the city without permission, buying records. And because I wasn't allowed to do it, it felt even better because I was disobeying rules to do it. So that was my memory of that music. And it's that style, the high energy, the Italo, the PWL, that stayed with me and it's never going to leave. That's why I do the music I do.
Thank God you do. Imports were expensive. They were
expensive. Yeah, I remember they were $13.50 when I first started going. And that would be that, I guess it's about £7 or £8. I think works out to be UK money. But yeah, it was expensive back then, but I would save every cent that I could. But then I also was a spoiled little brat and so Dad, please buy me that. And he used to listen, bless him.
I think you're describing most of our childhood. I think we can all probably relate. We're all the same, just literally living for taking stuff off the radio and then sourcing it and finding the import stuff and just that need for excessive.
And you know what? In the UK, I know that I guess the music you had in the UK was a lot better than we had here. Everything in the mid 80s to late 80s was rock. Nothing was really dance until Stock Aitken Waterman really came along. Really. We had very little. So everything that I listened to was obscure. It wasn't mainstream and it wasn't readily available in your local music store. So that's what made it really special. The fact that it was so different. And that's still what I like now. I don't even know what modern music sounds like now or what's in the charts. I don't pay attention.
Yeah, totally. Couldn't agree more. We've got a handful of questions left. Steve, DC Superstars. Hey, Steve. Well, I'm going to post one now and maybe come back with another one later. But what has been the oddest thing that happened to you or you saw that gave you inspiration to write a song? We'll go with that question first because there's a couple more.
Well, I'll answer that first. So I guess, and I'm going to go back to I Don't Like Disco. I remember speaking to Amanda Lear on the phone, who is one of my all-time legendary people. So the fact that I got to speak to her on the phone, and I must say that when we produced her, we didn't meet. We weren't in the studio together. It was a virtual thing. They sent the vocals over, we produced them here. But to speak to her on the phone, to be honest, the whole time, I wasn't the professional. I was the fangirl. I was just like, yes, Miss Leah. You know, I was so nervous, and she was so. I think she knew, and she was really, really sweet. So that conversation drove me to write I Don't Like Disco, and that was an odd, surreal moment. So that's probably the moment I remember the most.
Oh, Bob, do you have certain conditions to your environment around you while writing?
What do you mean?
Do you need a certain light? Do you need a certain drink? Do you need a certain, this is what I'm getting from this question. Do you have certain conditions to your environment? So do you need to be lit in a certain way to get inspiration or?
No. Oh God, no, I'm not a diva. I don't want, please have these white M&Ms and please have these candles burning. I remember a story about Donna Summer, how she laid down with candles when she sang Love to Love You Baby. I think that's fabulous. But no, nothing. All I need is the producer, and every producer I've worked with, they know what they're doing. It's a quiet environment and it's professional. We get it done. What I like to do with them usually, and I've done this with Argonaut, John, who used to record my vocals here, and Pete Hammond and I do this when we finish the session in the UK. We'll go and get a bite to eat. We'll have, I don't drink alcohol, but I used to drink occasionally, but not now. But we'd go have a couple of drinks when I did that, or we'd go eat lunch. Pete and I would always do that. But John and I, after we would record vocals, we'd go off and get an Indian curry. We'd always do that. So I think that's my condition. I want to go and eat food with them and just enjoy their company afterwards.
Yeah, just immerse yourself in it. Do you have, is there anything that you do when you write alone? Or is it just literally just there with a pad, with a dictaphone? How old am I? Do you?
My phone, I'll sing into my phone, or I'll write the lyrics on my computer. I usually like to have a bit of quiet. So if there's noise going around where I am, I'll just have the headphones on and I'll just switch off to everything.
Well, I hope that's answered your question, Steve. And his final one is, oh no, so the rest of the question, which I apologize, which I didn't read, like certain room or food I have during the process. We totally got there. Apologies for that.
I'll have some, I think every singer would say this, I'll have some water. And usually before I go into the studio, the day before, I'll start to gargle apple cider vinegar. I'll do that. And I will maybe even lemon, because that's really helpful to strengthen the throat. And Nikki French gave me a tip about recording and I guess handling any, if you've lost your voice, ready salted potato chips, because the salt soothes your throat.
Yeah.
Do that beforehand. So yeah, that's my preparation usually.
So anything with salt in it. Steve, pot, tan.
Are you being rude?
No, gargling with salt. So that's thanks, Steve. Partan. Partan, we're gonna go with Partan. Single Aussie. Aussie. I. And he's single, or she's single, or they are single. How did you first meet Pete Hammond?
Okay. Pete Hammond. So when I was 16, 17, in Melbourne, unknown, nobody, would call PWL almost weekly. Can I speak to Mike Sock? Can I speak to Pete Waterman? Can I speak to anyone? You know, and of course they wouldn't put me through, but I was doing it almost weekly. They must have gotten so annoyed. So one day, I was always conscious of who Pete Hammond was, because you'd turn over at the back of almost every Stock Aitken Waterman single, you'd see that he'd mixed it, or he'd produced some of the tracks. The Sunita, for example, right back where we started from, or Damien. So you'd see his name everywhere, Eighth Wonder. So I loved his work, and I'd buy everything that had his name on it if I saw it, knowing how it would sound. So I asked for Pete Hammond, and then after a couple of tries, he took my call. And not only did he take my call and chat for 2 minutes, we spoke for a good hour or two. I think I remember when I called one time, he was remixing an artist from New Zealand called Margaret Ehrlich, who had some hits in Australia, and there was a song called Number One. He was remixing at that time, and he took a break from that to speak to me. But he didn't treat me like a silly little fan. He spoke to me like an artist, because I'd written a few of my songs that I had demoed already at that time. I sent them to him at his address, which he gave me. He treated me like an artist, and he always did. So we were connected. We were connected a bit at that time, and then years later, we obviously lost contact. But then when Facebook happened, I saw him on Facebook and said, "Hey, Pete, do you remember me?" And he's, "Of course I do." And anyone who knows Pete or has spoken to Pete knows he doesn't remember. He'll forget things. So, but the fact that he remembered me was great. And then when the time came to work with him, I had already worked with Dave Ford and Ian Kerno on a couple of tracks, and he said to me, "Why aren't you working with me?" And I said, "Oh, you're probably too expensive." And so as a joke, but then we worked something out, and it happened, and I was over the moon. And the first track we did together was "You Better Not Fool Around," the Hayward cover, and thankfully Hayward's one of my friends, and she agreed to do backing vocals on my version. So that was really special. So yeah, I've known Pete since, I guess, 1989, 1990, and we've been working together now solidly for 12 years. So that's a long time.
Bob, would you say he was a bit like a mentor?
Yeah, completely. He's like I always joke, he's like my British dad, you know, because honestly, Pete and Gary and Dave from Energize, they're like my British family. But Pete, whenever we speak a lot, not just when we're working together, but we will message each other, and we'll have conversations. You know, so we share a lot of personal stuff. And when I'm over there, we'll catch up and we'll have lunch, or we'll you know, one time he drove me to Brighton to see some friends, and then we came back and we got stuck on the freeway from Brighton back to where he lives. And the reason why was a horse had gotten free, and they were running around on the freeway, and he was terribly late for something because of that. So that was a memory.
Oh, that's fab. We love
Yeah.
Pete Hammond. So thank you, single Aussie. Hope you find love very soon. There's love out there for everybody. Delta Brody has a duet. So there's a duet theme through Delta Brody's questioning. So we're going to start with I Love Shadows of the Night. Have you wanted to sing another Giorgio Moroder song like Love is Like Magic?
Oh, good question. So, Shadows of the Night is a song that was originally recorded by Sabrina. Boys, 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 all of me wants all of you. So I love Sabrina, and I have the album with Shadows of the Night on there. I love that song, and on the same album, Love is Like Magic is on there. I always loved Shadows of the Night, and I suggested to Atelier Connection to work on that, and it turned out amazingly. But Love is Like Magic is such a good song, but it's the production is on the Sabrina version. It's so Giorgio Moroder. It's so quirky. It's different, unlike anything you've ever heard. I don't think that we'd be able to do. I couldn't do it because it wouldn't do justice to that production. I wouldn't be better than that. And I'm not saying Shadows of the Night is, but I don't know. I don't think I could do it the justice that it needs. Good song, but good idea, but I don't think so.
Right. It continues. I liked your duet with Fancy. Would you consider other duets with Italo dance legends like Ken Laszlo?
Well, Fancy would be the first to say, because I once referred to our track as a duet. It goes, it's not a duet. It's me doing spoken words. So that's why it says spoken words by Fancy. It's a Peter Wilson track. It needs to be a Peter Wilson track, etc. So, yeah, I would. I've not worked with Cam, but we've been on the same bill in Melbourne at a show, and also in Sweden. He's such a sweet guy, very funny, and he's very, very, very kind. I would love to do a duet with him. I haven't planned it, but yeah, there's no reason why I wouldn't. That's a really good suggestion.
Babs. It continues, your duets with Sean Smith are very positive for the gay community. It's rare to see men singing love songs together. Are you going to team up with Sean again? Thanks for taking questions and thank you for the music.
Well, that's my pleasure. And look, I said after Verona that we would never do a second one, and Sean was the same. But then when we caught up in Melbourne, a friend of ours who we had dinner with at that time said, well, go on, what's stopping you? And Sean and I just looked at each other and said, well, I love you, you love me, let's do it. And we did it, and we're so happy with it. But there's been a bit of talk. There's a song we've got which could work, but I don't want to promise. I don't know what's going on, but with him, with us doing it. But if there is a potential to do one more song, but I don't know. Well, Sean has to say yes, and I think that he might. But I'm making it sound like it's going to happen now. But there are no plans. But never say never. And there's a song we could do if we say yes.
Well, everyone loves a good trilogy.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. So, yeah, I'll tell Sean about that. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Wrap it up with the third one.
Yeah.
Nice little
a happy little threesome. A happy little threesome.
We've had a threesome, us two, me with Sean. We're not like that with Sean. That's an exclusive.
Let us be clear. Let us be clear. Not
but, right, and let's not go any further with that. But yeah, not like that.
No, yeah. Not like that.
Moving swiftly on. Thank you very much, Delta Brody, for that. Moving swiftly on. Fit as tub. FITAZTB. That's you on Instagram. Hi, Pete. Your music is an inspiration and quite often the story of my life. What inspires you as a musician when creating a song?
Hearing those kind of compliments, that's just lovely. I really appreciate that. I never expect to impact someone that way. So when I hear that I do, it's so appreciated. So I'm glad that you feel that way. So thank you. What inspires me? God, it's usually chords or musical styles. There is so much. I guess, European disco music or Italo disco music that I haven't heard that inspires me. One is the Matt Pop. One of the covers on the album is a track that I only discovered, which I don't know why I did, only now, and it made me just want to do it straight away. And Matt was the same. So yeah, I don't know. It's usually music styles or chords or the way a voice sounds. So that's what usually inspires me.
Fabs. Thank you very much indeed. Fittars. We're going to go fitter or fittars. Maybe that's
Thank
like
you.
Fittars.
And thank you for your lovely words. I appreciate those.
That's really kind of him, or her, or them, or there. Gadget Boy 1, the original, the OG. Gadget Boy 1. Love to know about your writing process. How do you craft a song? Also, you've said one of my faves, Laserlight, isn't one of yours. Wondering why?
Well, I think we've talked about Laserlight, but yeah, I don't know. I have no rules. I mean, I could start with a lyric. I could start with a hook. I could be in the studio with someone and we come up with something together. There's just no rules. I guess as a songwriter, you've got to just adapt and be open to many different ways of doing it. Because if you can't, if you've got one strict way, you're missing out on other ways to create. So whatever shape it takes at the time, you just go with it. Yeah.
This question kind of ties in with this. This is just something I've thought of. Has there ever been an encounter with a partner or someone you've had a relation with that has then made you write a song afterwards? So has there been something that you've kind of, it could be sexual, it could be a trip to the beach. I was thinking more of the former, but has there been something that has kind of then you've gone, oh my God, pen.
Well, I'll put it this way. I have written about previous partners before. They might have been ex-partners at the time, or there might have been friendships that have ended that has inspired a song. But there's Unconditional, which was inspired by my friend Belinda. We've been friends for a very long time. She's an incredibly loyal friend, and I wrote that song about her. So that's a very personal moment. There's a song that I wrote with Matt on the new album, which is equally as personal, if not more personal, and it's about, I won't say what it's about, but it's people who know me on Facebook will know I've talked about this before. So so that, thinking about our previous relationship, this person, it's about a relationship that inspired me to write that song. And it was a very hard one to write. And I listen to the lyrics now and it really gets to me. So yeah, so I can write from those things, but yeah, that's, I guess, the best I can say to that.
Yeah, and do the people, so if you've wrote a song, say about Belinda, obviously she's a good friend, and you're gonna, do you tell her, or do you just let her?
She knows. Yeah, she knows, and she loves that song. And I actually, for her birthday, I got that song pressed on 7-inch vinyl for her. She loves the vinyl, and she's one of the people that loves the awful Bing Bong Turn Me On. So I got that on the B-side. So there's only 2 copies that exist, and she's got one and I've got one. But yeah, so she knows it. She knows about it.
Oh gosh, that's a great gift to give. And so if you were writing about a relationship, did the ex-partners then know, or is it like, say, Adele, for instance? She writes a full album of I hate you and you've done this and blah, blah, blah. Did the people find out? Did they know? Is it obvious?
Well, if they do know, we've never had the conversation, so I don't know. And I am on good terms with my ex. There's 2 exes, so I'm on good terms. So if it's never come up in conversation, and I'd prefer it not to. So if they do know, they haven't told me.
Oh, keep it that way. So thank you, Gadget Boy 1, the OG of gadgets, for those questions. And we've got a couple more. We've got Philip Simeon. Philip Simeon. Ho, ho, ho. Apologies if that was offensive. What is your favorite album of all time and why?
Of my albums or just
What is the favorite of all of your albums? So it's yours. This is
Ah.
your albums, not anybody else's. But let's go with your favorite album of all time after this question.
Okay. Favorite of mine, I always go back to Pulsation because of the energy I felt at the time. And there's always, I say Overdrive too because of what I've said before, but I keep on going back to Pulsation. But really, I'm so proud of the next album of The Great Unknown because there have been times where I have felt a bit complacent listening back to my vocals, as I've said. I have pushed it to hell and back, and I've really gone for it on this album vocally. The songwriting, 5 of the tracks are Swedish. I've written I'm so proud of the writing that I've done, proud of the original songs that have been given to me, and there's 3 cover versions, actually not 2, there's 3 cover versions. I'm really proud of it. So this album, I think, is going to challenge my favorite of Pulsation.
Oh. Well, haven't heard a little bit of the album.
You have?
Yes. So it's very, very good.
And the other answer would be my favorite album of all time. I'm going to give you this. Okay. Kim Wilde Select from 1982. What an album that is. And when I met her a few years ago and I told her that album single-handedly changed my scope of music from stock Aiken Waterman, Euro disco, Italo disco to a whole different genre. And she gave me a hug when she told me that. So that was great. There's Donna Summer, Another Place in Time, speaks for itself. What a beautiful album. Kylie, and my favorite Kylie album is Let's Get to It. It's so underrated and it's so incredible. It's her at her. She was defiant as an artist, but she was loyal to Stock and Waterman at the time, and she was able to get them to change their formula. It stands up for so many great things. I love the album, but there's also an album by an Australian group from the 80s called Coup d'Etat, and they had Too Young for Promises, Body Talk, Think of Me. And if you're watching this, everybody, and you're wondering wondering about them, KOODETAH, all separate words, Coup d'Etat. YouTube them, listen. That album is incredible. So they're my albums of all. They're my favorite 4, I guess you could say.
Great selections in there. Did you hear the story? Someone I was talking to Sammy Paul, and when she met Kim Wilde, and she went similar about the Select, and she was like, "Chaos at the fucking airport."
Yeah. Chaos at the Airport. What a great song. I love that track. Chaos at the Airport tonight. Something ain't right. Such a crazy song. Yeah, it's actually a friend of mine saw Kim at the airport years ago, and she was like a fan and said something about that. And Kim's like, "Hey, Ricky, come here. This one loves Chaos at the Airport," and they thought it was hilarious. So that I remember that story. Yeah, Kim was fantastic, and yeah, I met her when I was 20 back in the day, and then I met her a few years ago again, and she was just great. She's one of my favorite female singers.
Yeah, I love Kim Wilde. Saw her live a few times. She's brilliant. That is it with the fans. I do have a question, which I would like. I know I've piped in a few bits and bobs, but Eurovision. I would like to know, would you like to represent Eurovision? If so, what kind of song would you bring and what kind of performance? And would you have a gimmick?
I'd be happy to write one. I'm not sure about performing for the reasons I've talked about for doing videos. But if it was the type of song that I would do, it would be something like, as I was saying before, the track that's on the next album, Do You Love Me? You've heard that. I would write something like that. It's very much the classic Eurovision sound of, I guess, the Swedish Melody Festival and the drama. Might sound out of date now, but that would be what I think would work for Eurovision for me. I love that song, and I actually thought for a second, should I submit this? But yeah, I don't know. I think music's changed too much for me to be in that, to be part of all of that, and that's very much a mainstream step. And I kind of don't want to be in that mainstream step anyway. So I don't think that I would, but perhaps as a writer.
Oh, very good. There you go. Well, that is nearly it.
That's
know.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
God, that's a lot of questions. Thank you, everyone, for sending those through. That's a lot to get through. I hope that we haven't missed any. But I appreciate it. It's great to know that people are still interested in what I'm doing, and to have my 10th album coming soon. This means a lot. So thank you, everyone, for your support.
10th album, that's huge. It's huge. So the new album,
I never expected it to happen, yeah. And then next year, I'm turning 50 next year, and that's I'm dreading that.
Any music plans? Because last year you said to me, I'm gonna go on a break. I need to take time out, and then here we go, the great unknown new single.
Well, this wasn't planned. I think that if I do any kind of thing for my 50th, it would be, I don't know. I won't be an album because, let's face it, I've released an album every year pretty much for the last 10 or 12 years, and I've really got to take a break. But I don't know. I don't know, because I want to get through this album, and there are so many great songs that I'm proud of on this album that I want to give that album the chance to breathe and the chance for these songs to live a little and not rush anything out. So I would be very confident to say no album next year, because this album's too good to. It's too good to move on from, and I felt that way about Electricity, I know, but I really have to got to treat this album right.
Well, a little concert for your 50th next year for the fans.
A little concert. Well, what I might imagine would happen would be a trip, again, hopefully all going well. I still hope that I'm going to be okay for July in the UK, but hopefully things keep on improving and I'll be back there again. And then maybe the guy mentioned about a tour. Maybe I can visit a couple of other countries, and I want to go back to Sweden. They were so wonderful to me there. So I'd do that again. But yeah, so I would imagine it'd be some kind of performance, but it won't be new music. It'll be just promoting the stuff I've done.
Yeah, like a little greatest Peter Wilson, the great unknown, stepping into the 50s, stepping into 50.
Well, I'm 49 next Wednesday. So yeah, I'm getting old. I'm getting very old.
Well, happy birthday for next week.
Thank you.
I know, but that's the thing. We're all getting old. That's the one thing we can't control.
Crazy. It's crazy. But you know what? I mean,
shocking.
No, I've got none. I've lived, like, people ask me, do I color it? I don't color it. The only grey hair I have is if I grow a beard. It's all grey. I had a spot in my nose removed 6 weeks ago, and because it was in such a delicate place, I couldn't shave because moving around would split would stop it healing. So I had to grow a moustache for 2 weeks, and it was white as snow. And I looked like I was a 70s B-grade porn star. So I was happy to be able to shave that damn thing off.
Did you take any photographs?
That's where I'm growing.
Did you not take any photographs?
Yeah, I've got a photograph. It's on Instagram, so have a look. It's there.
Check that out. Peter the porn star.
That's it.
So the new album is out in June. We can expect that.
Yeah, we don't have a date yet, but it's going to be June. And then I'm in the UK in July. So it'll be CD, a double CD. Then Gary is talking about vinyl as well. So I'd imagine there's a lot of a backlog with the vinyl. They're coming out a bit later than the CD releases, I'm finding. So that might be a bit later, like Electricity was. And then there'll be a digital version, which will be a condensed version of the double disc. So there'll be the 14 tracks from disc 1, and then some of the mixes from Electricity, and it'll be a condensed, I guess, 17 or 18 track album. So that's what's going to happen. And there'll be, obviously, on the double disc, there'll be exclusive stuff, like there's 2 songs that won't be on the main, on the digital version, and there'll be mixes as well that won't be. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
For the fans. And the new single is out now. That is
Friday. That's on Friday, so the 4th of March. So I guess by the time this goes live, it will be now.
That's why I said that.
Sorry. We're pre-recording, everybody. We are pre-recording.
I was
Oh,
trying,
the fans out.
I was trying to make this like real time. The single came out yesterday.
And I fucked it right up. I'm sorry.
So yes, the single's out. The single is out. It came out yesterday, March the 4th.
Yeah.
That is the title track.
Friday just gone. Friday just gone.
And that is the title track to the album, The Great Unknown. And will we be getting another single before the album?
I'm not sure. I really don't know the answer. I'd imagine maybe. And I just don't know which one it should be. I usually know what singles are going to go in which particular order, but it's between 3 songs for the next single, and they've all had remixes done already. But I don't know. There's a track actually. Jeff Vincent, who is PWL fans will know him. He's done a great track for me called. I was going to say another title, but I'm trying to get it right. Gone for Good is the track, and that's PWL fans. They're going to love this one. So that's definitely a contender. That might be one of them. Yeah, but I also want to hold on to it in case people hear the album and go, oh my God, when you hear a new album and you hear a brand new track and it gives you those goosebumps. I want that moment to be that way for that song, but I don't know. But that's probable.
I think the same for Do You Love Me. I think you should save that for the
release. I really love
album.
that. And there's a couple of mixes we've already done, and Larry's going to do an extended version too, a classic extended. But I think when people hear that, they're going to go, "What the fuck?" It's literally one of my favorite ever recordings. So I can't wait for people to hear it.
It's a fantastic song, and it's going to be.
Thank you.
I hope the listeners, your fans, do kind of play the album from start and then build towards that big epic track at the end. Yeah,
me too. I hope so. That's how I've constructed the track listing. So let's hope they do that.
Yeah, because I always do that with Kylie's new records. I don't kind of just dipping around. I always start the album at the beginning and then listen to it how she intended that to play out.
Well, yeah, but you know something, Rhythm of Love, I love that album. I think it stands up well today, but I always thought that ending with Rhythm of Love was kind of like a anticlimax. I always thought that could have been, especially Count the Days and Rhythm of Love, it could have gone sort of, after Shocked and One Boy Girl, and then it could have ended with Things Can Only Get Better. I think that song could have ended the album.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, because like when we get
big moment,
because let's get to it. You've got the big. I guess I like.
Oh my God! I guess I like it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I hope people do that with this album. But yeah, I think so. The second single is either out of Gone for Good, which Jeff did with Pete Hammond, and every song on the album is actually, it's got this epic drama to it. It's really big. And that song, I really go for the high vocal on the chorus on that one too. And I'm proud of it. I think Jeff sings backing vocals on it too. That's probably I would imagine that will follow. But again, it's so many songs that I love that I'm trying to choose from. But that's very likely.
Could you let the fans, even though they haven't heard it, could you make them, like give them the title, the description, and let them social media go, this is what we want next? Would you ever do that?
Sorry, no.
No,
I couldn't. No, I know. I usually choose what the Energize have chosen a couple. They chose Laserlight. They wanted Laserlight as a single. I didn't, but they did, and so we went with it. So they've made some decisions sometimes where they've chosen. And they also wanted Broken Man. Broken Man was going to be the B-side of 24/7, but they loved it so much. They wanted that as the lead single for the next album, and they made me hold it. Or they said, we will give you a long-term deal if we're able to use that song. So that was the song that started me with them. So I listened to them for that. But yeah, but usually I'll choose the singles.
And is it like last minute, or do you just go? Does it get to the?
No, I usually know well in advance. I mentioned I know in advance what the single should be. I know what the singles are going to be from this album, but the order in which they're released, I'm still not sure. But I'll get there. It's just the album's delivered and the first single's out. I probably have to do another photo shoot actually, because we don't have enough photos for all the singles I want to release. But yeah, I just need to be 100% clear on the running order or the single pecking order, so to speak. But I'll get there.
You will, and the fans will be thrilled. So the single's out
Hope
now.
so.
Single's out now. Album's out in June. We've got a big 50th Peter Wilson concert to look forward to next year.
Now, come on. I hope so. I really hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, that's happening. Thanks ever so much. Well, thank you. Listen, thank you. I probably appreciate it. I feel very honoured to have been asked to host this, and I hope the fans.
I'm honoured to have you with me because, as I say, there was no one else I'd want to do this with other than you. And as I said, I was going to do it by myself, but I wouldn't have had this kind of fun. So thank you.
You are absolutely more than welcome. So best of luck with everything, and obviously I'll speak with you very soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you again.
That was Ask Peter. Stay fabulous. Bye.
Bye.